I'm trying to make these little seals. So this is my soap dough. I'm using my gray here. And I've always wished that videos would show how they make their soap dough creatures, but now I understand why a lot of them don't. It's because it's really just a bunch of playing around. There's no exact science.
Do you want to know? Well, I've been thinking about you, and I think I'll have to listen, because the sun is up, it's a beautiful day. My beginning will be as bright as the sun. Come, won't you come along? And it feels so bright, it's like luck is raining on me. Go and follow your heart, doesn't matter how far. There is so much love to give, something's telling me this time. Baby, baby, now I know. Baby, baby, gotta go. There is so much love to give, something's telling me it's right. When you came to me, oh I knew it's you, yeah, boy. The one who showed me now and forever. No, you'll never be alone again. All day, oh yeah, all day. Please stay in my arms, boy. The one who showed me if we're together. It don't matter if it rains. All day, oh yeah, all day. As long as you're in my arms, boy.
I have raided my kitchen for this project. Don't worry. Once something leaves my kitchen to come to the soap room, it does not go back to the kitchen. But brown sugar is used in other industries for mold making, so I thought, let's try and use this for a mold. Brown sugar is good for molding because it kind of stays where you put it for the most part. So I'm going to try and see how much I need for the project I'm doing. It required a lot more brown sugar than I thought it would, simply because brown sugar compresses so much. So my goal is to try to get as much of a glacier bottom shape as I can here. Just going to use this spatula because I really want kind of a sharp we had some crazy mishaps with this blue. It started to rice, and I didn't catch it on camera, but I have a little bit of Mermaid blue mica from Brambleberry, and this is just light gray. Oh, I don't know where my container is. We're just gonna mix that around in there. Oh, it's too much gray. I shouldn't have added all of it. And let's pull in our mold. And say a little prayer. Let's just shake this. Give it a super good bang in case there are any air bubbles in there. We're gonna call that good and get our white to set up, and I will pour the excess batter into some pretty molds. Our bottom glacier is pretty much set up, which means we can add the top part, which I want mostly white. This has not set up much, so I'm going to stick blend it a little to get it to the point that we need it. And then in this one where we mixed up the gray, I'm going to mix up a tiny bit of that blue, and it will capture some of that gray as well, just for some striations through our glacier. So I have a little bit left in my container here. I'm going to scrape that out, get that in there. In fact, I'll add a little bit of the dough into the cup. Whoops, I got a little blue in there, but that's okay. Glaciers do tend to be, in fact, maybe we should just add a tiny bit of blue, but in this one, we'll add a lot of it. I'm not adding any titanium dioxide. I have found that with my recipe, Titanium dioxide tends to give a yellowish white, whereas my recipe is pretty white all on its own. So I'm just going to let the white speak for itself there. Set this one here. Oh, I almost forgot to add my fragrance. I'm a little scared to do that though because it rices. So let me get my stick blender ready, and then we won't add it to this since there's hardly any soap in here, but we will add it into here so that we can stick blend it up real fast. I've added my fragrance oil, so let me see if I can show you what I mean by saying it rices. So when I mix it in, it starts to look chunky. I don't know if you can see, but there are little white chunks in my batter, and that is the ricing. It looks like there's little tiny specks of rice in there. So what we're gonna do is just stick blend it like crazy to try to get all those lumps back into a nice smooth mixture. And it's okay if I stick blend this a lot because I want it to be thick anyway to make my glacier top. It's a good medium to thick trace right now, but we're gonna let it thicken up so that we can do more of a plopping style on the top instead of a pouring style. While we wait for the white to set up, there's so much gray in this underwater part of the glacier that I decided to add a tiny bit of gray. This is Brambleberry's Pewter Silver Mica, which we used in the large glacier as well. I took some of the blue. I'm just going to mix it until there are no chunks of mica in there. Make sure it's nice and smooth. And then I'm going to drizzle it in the blue right before we drizzle it into the white. Ooh, I'm glad I reached over to stir my white batter. It is definitely thick enough for plopping now. So we're going to add some of this blue, not all of it. Some of this gray, not all of it. And then I'm just going to stir that through my plopping mixture. It's going to look gross here, but it should make for some lovely stripes through the glacier part. I'm kind of regretting that my glacier is not more white. You know what I mean? But what you going to do? We're going to go with this. So I'm just gonna, let me bring this over here. There's too many things in my workstation right now. So we're just gonna take it and plop it. Now all those liquidy bits of blue, they will harden up just as much as the white soap will. The whole bar of soap is going to end up being all the same thickness, hardness, texture, because they all have the same ingredients. The only thing the blue is missing is the fragrance oil and a little bit of stick blending, but it will still harden up. It looks so dark, so let's all just really, really hope that this is going to come out nice and bright and light looking when it's done, so that it will look like a glacier. Okay, we just want to pound it down, and then I want to find where it meets the hard glacier, pull it up, and then we're going to make a spot for our little manatees to sit on. So we're just going to build this up, nothing fancy. And then just right here, I want it to make it look kind of like a shelf. You know how they have the flat parts of the glacier that the seals can rest on and that the manatees can rest on? That's kind of what I'm trying to create here, is just a shelf for them to sit on. I think that looks good. Let's get our little seals. I gotta wash off my hands though. I seriously am so proud of these little seals, or manatees, walruses even, if you don't mind them not having tusks. I think they're so cute. And for my first time doing soap dough and not really knowing what I'm doing, I think they're just darling. I was gonna mark my mold and I didn't. So we're just gonna put them in, try to do it evenly. I don't want to get their tails stuck because I worked so hard to make their tails nice and pokey. That's my goal, is just to have it look like a seal is just resting on his little glacier. This is some blue eco glitter by Brambleberry. And we're just going to, oh, not too much. Oh, I put way too much. Just from up on high, I just want a little bit. Just a tiny bit. Just enough to say, hey, we're frozen up here. Maybe I do want a lot. That's the teeniest one. He was the first one I made, and he's just so cute. Some of these guys are a little fatter than others, and that's okay. We're all dealing with things in our own way. Come on, little guy. Oh, I got his face in there. I've added the fragrance to the water portion of our Glacier soap. Now I know this is going to rise terribly. I'm going to add my colorant, and then we're going to stick blend. I believe I've stick blended out as much of those lumps as I can. I don't want this to get too thick. We are doing a wall pour, so I need it to be fluid in order to do that. I'm going to portion off some of my batter here. And hopefully the batter won't get too thick while it's sitting here. We're going to move this to the side. This is the same color as my iceberg, and I don't want them to blend. So I'm going to try to do a bit of a gradient pour. So I'm going to be adding a bit of black to darken this up. This might turn actually black. I hope not, but it might. Yes, that's very, very black, but that's okay. It will go from this black to the regular blue up to a light greenish blue. I'm going to take off a few more paper towels in case I have messes. And then we're using this paper towel roll to elevate our mold, and we're going to do a line pour, very much like we did with the gradient rainbow. Ooh, let me get that even along here. Okay, so it's not going to be very smooth between the black and the blue. I'm okay with that. And then we're going to add some of the blue. Well, maybe we'll add a little black so we can make it more of a gradient. All right, so we'll add some more black to that, get a little more blue in there. And I'm okay with some striations. And we'll try to be a little more even in our pour this time. I always need a little extra in the middle. Then we'll add some more blue. And because it's water, it's very forgiving. It does not have to be completely even. Water is supposed to have waves and stuff in it. All right, we are starting to get lighter, so that's good. I think I'm going to like the look of not fully mixing the colors and leaving just a little bit of the swirl and striations in there. All right, now I'm going to start adding a tiny bit of this neon green, because in the pictures I've seen of the glaciers, I just love the way that when the sun hits the waters, it just adds this kind of green glow to it. So a little bit of neon green mica, just to add a little bit of that green glow. Let's stir that around. Oh, I love the way that glows. I hope that that shows through in the cured soap. Sometimes wet soap looks much more vibrant and colorful than it does once the soap is set. All right, at this point, it's gotten so thick, I'm going to go ahead and put my mold down. And we'll just pour from the top on this side here. Okay, I think we actually have filled it too full at this point. I got so intent on the filling that I forgot we were adding our embed. So let me get that back out. I wrapped it back up so that it wouldn't dry out while I was making the soap batter. I'm going to ever so slowly and at an angle start to drop the glacier in. The batter is nice and thick, so I think it should be able to hold it. And then I'm going to push it down. I want to make sure that the white part is in there. Okay, because I just want the white part to just be peeking out of the water. Okay, now I have all this overflowed soap batter. So what I'm going to do is grab a mold and start scraping and dumping this extra batter into the mold, as well as whatever batter is left in my containers. Good morning, everyone. It's early today. It is 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm supposed to be getting ready for work, but I have just been thinking about this soap all night, and I just couldn't wait to come down and cut it. I'm afraid that I made a mistake in the color choices for the water around the iceberg. So let's just cut it and see what we've got. Oh no, I made my soap too high from, oh, look at that, you guys. Oh, I love it. Oh, it's perfect. Except my soap is too high for my cutter and the top is getting smashed. So let me lay it on the side. Oh, I really didn't think it was going to come out like that all last night. That's why I had to cut it this morning. See, look, I smashed my top there. Let me just see if I can kind of reform that a little bit. I did the water yesterday, and I just went to bed thinking, oh no, it's totally ruined. It's muddy. It's going to look gray and black, but oh, it's perfect. Absolutely perfect. Okay. I wasn't very careful when I spaced the seals, so I have to be careful when I cut it. Look at that. Oh, I have had a couple people comment on how surprised I sound when I cut into my soap. But you have to understand, I plan it in my head, I build it, but when you put it into a loaf mold, you really have no clue what it's going to turn out like until you cut it. So yes, I am 100% surprised when I cut these things. Oh, but this is just exactly what I wanted it to be, down to the glow around the iceberg. You know, I wanted that glow from the sun coming through. Ooh, I'm going to ruin my soaps. I'm so excited. Oh, this was worth coming down early before work to cut. Because now, while I'm at work, I don't have to think about my iceberg. I don't have to wonder if the water is horrible. But oh, that just turned out so perfect. And I love the way that the striations look in the iceberg. Oh, my muddy gray mess that I was so worried about is just a perfectly beautiful iceberg above and below water. Oh, yeah. And my little seals, for the most part, survived. They had a rough go of it, but they survived. They made it. And they're beautiful. Well, between this and the mermaid tail, I'm loving soap dough. I'm loving the surprise when you cut into a loaf that you've shaped something in, you know, versus just doing a swirl. Swirls are beautiful too. I love the excitement of cutting a loaf mold with a swirl. Oh, we've got an air bubble, but I mean, that's our first air bubble, and that was my biggest worry. But the good thing with air bubbles, like I've got this little end piece here. You just take a little chunk of it and you make a little mini piece of soap dough, squish it together, and then you just squish it into the air bubble. Make sure it's all full of soap. And once you're sure it's all full, you just wipe it off. And away goes your air bubble. See? Perfect. Oh, this slice is going to be a big fat slice, simply because of the positioning of the seal. So this fat seal gets a fat slice of soap. That's huge. That's why using a ruler to place your embeds is very handy. Oh, all these dreamy glaciers. I've always wanted to see the glaciers in Alaska, but I see videos like in Alaska where people are on boats and they see the glaciers and the glaciers start crumbling, and apparently it just makes a beautiful sound when glaciers break. Almost sounds like they're singing or crying, as some people say. And I've always loved the idea that there's more underwater than you see above. Just kind of one of those little reminders that, you know, the people that you see, the beauty that you're seeing is only skin deep. There's so much more to them, you know. And there's our last one. Oh, absolutely beautiful. But on the whole, they're all absolutely gorgeous. I'm almost regretting the sparkles on top, because the design is so beautiful it doesn't need them. But I'm not even mad at it. I just think it's fabulous. I'm going to clean these up, stamp them, take a photo, and we'll set this one up to cure. Now I got to go get ready for work. Thank you all for coming along with me and enjoying the surprise on this one.
Do you want to know?